What's up, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Adam Bergman's Money Makers, where we talk everything personal finance as it relates to your own personal journey for financial independence and financial growth. Guys, today I want to talk about a stock called LILIUM, ticker symbol LILM, and it is an eVTOL play. If you don't know what eVTOL stands for, it stands for electric, vertical, takeoff, and landing. And it's basically like the electric vehicles of the air, electric airplanes. So there's a couple of different types of eVTOLs. There's a lot of like drone-like eVTOLs, but there's only really one player that will make you feel like a boss, make you feel like a G, make you feel like an absolute baller flying in these airplanes. And this is the LILIUM jets. They're powered by 36 propellers, and they're actually powered on the actual wings to make it look like you're flying in an actual jet instead of a drone. And that's pretty cool. Today, I wanted to read you an interview with one of the pilots from LILIUM. Currently, LILIUM passed 2 audits or 2 checks or 2 processes. There's a total of 4 to get an okay with the European Aviation Board. And if they get the okay from the European Aviation Board, they are also getting the same exact approval from the United States counterpart. Today, I wanted to read you this article. I'm outside because the weather is beautiful. And to tell you the truth, my son is sleeping upstairs, too close to the studio, and I don't want to wake him up because my girl's going to beat my ass. And yes, I am wearing her glasses. These glasses are Celine glasses. They cost a grip, and that's the only thing I could find. So I put them on. Let's start with the article. The article is actually by eVTOL, and it says LILIUM's chief test pilot discusses the company's flight test progress in Spain. LILIUM has recently moved its flight test activities to Atlas Air Traffic Laboratory for Advanced Unmanned Systems. You guys would know this if you're following my channel. I do report on LILIUM quite a lot. I believe I'm the only YouTuber that consistently covers LILIUM, and also Wejo, which are both SPACs under the Palantir umbrella that invested in over 8 dozen SPACs. But those are the only 2 that I personally invest in. Located in the sprawling Andalusian olive groves in southern Spain, we took this opportunity to speak to Andrew Strachan, LILIUM's chief test pilot, to learn about how the company is progressing through its flight testing. Alex Seri, Andrew, can you give us a background on your experience and the path that brought you to LILIUM? Andrew says, I joined the Royal Air Force as a direct entrant in 1979, with most of my experience being on a rotary wing aircraft. In 1990, I did the Empire Test Pilot School test pilot course, following which I did 4 years of military test flying, equally split between Boscombe Down in the UK and a 2-year exchange with the US Army Flight Test Unit at Edwards Air Force Base in Mojave Desert. When he returned to the UK in 1997, he joined the Westland Helicopters, which became Augustin's Westland, then Leonardo. I was promised a deputy chief test pilot in 2003, the chief test pilot in 2012, holding that position for 7 years. This work including the full gambit of flight testing, from initial airworthiness to military-specific testing such as ship, aircraft, interface, and weapons testing. I retired from that position in 2019, but continued to work consulting work for Leonardo and Boeing, specifically maintaining check flights on the CH-47 Chinook with the latter. As with anyone interested in aviation, I had an eye at the developments of eVTOL, so when the opportunity came to work with LILIUM, it was too good to let go. Alex, what was the main driver of moving the test campaign to Spain? Andrew, it was quite straightforward, really. I think as a general statement, it is more difficult to do unmanned test flying as opposed to having a pilot on board in terms of regulation. When you consider the size of the flight test area, that must consider an unlikely, uncommanded flyaway event. Quite simply, we reached the limit of flight envelope that we could test at our local location in Germany. So they just needed a bigger space. I'm going to read this as it goes, and then I'm going to give you my commentary because you guys can read this on your own. The commentary, that's where the juice is at. Alex, will you continue flight testing in Germany concurrently? Andrew, there is no flight testing being done in Germany. Phoenix 2 is already at Atlas, and Phoenix 3 will be joining shortly. That will give us 2 aircraft to help us accelerate as well as provide some additional resiliency to the program. The development of the production aircraft will, however, continue at Wiblingen in Bavaria, Germany. So the testing is in Spain, but the actual production of the LILIUM line is in Germany. Alex, can you describe the routine of the flight test day in Atlas? At Atlas. Andrew, it's a traditional flight test process, and we have settled down into a good rhythm. The preparation starts from the previous day when we prepare the vehicle and tests that are planned. We have a simulator for the technology demonstration on site, which allows the crew to remote pilot and flight test engineers to design the practice and test profile. On the day itself, the team meets at 6:30 a.m. I wake up at 6:30 as well. I wake up, I change my son's diapers, I play with him, googa gaga. I'm lying, my girl usually changes his diapers, but I do wake up to say good morning, hug him, and give him a kiss. And if you're a father or a parent or even a child, hug your parents, give them a kiss, and say thank you. And if you're a parent, go hug your child and say thank you for being you, because our children give us life. Later in the day, you would expect some thermal activity and associated turbulence, so we are fly between 8 and 10 a.m. We finish the last preparations on the aircraft and the briefings, and in parallel, there would be other tasks such as charging the batteries, etc. The flight itself follows a predefined set of procedural steps. Once back on the ground, we do the debriefing and collect all the data for analysis and prepare for the next day. All that data that they're gathering, I would put all my money on it that is going through a Palantir Foundry software platform. If you know, they are a stack of Palantir, and Palantir gives them Palantir gives them their technology to use for the AI data analytics to make them less inefficient, therefore making them just a little bit more efficient. Alex, do you envision any flight testing with a pilot on board with the current demonstrator? Andrew, the Phoenix 2 has always intended to be an unmanned technology demonstrator and is currently fully fitted with test instruments. So I guess all of this test flying is with no pilot. It's just literally by remote control. That's pretty crazy. See, I learn things new every single day. We all learn. I never knew that. Alex, what are the advantages and challenges when most of the flight testing can be done without a pilot on board? Wow. Andrew, the main advantage is, of course, safety. In modern test flights, risk is reduced to a minimum. However, as you can expect, especially at this stage of the development, there is always a possibility, as small as it may be, that the test flight does not go according to plan. With today's technology, such as high bandwidth data links, we can collect a huge amount of data without having a pilot on board. And there you go. There's the connection between Palantir and LILIUM. I understood where the connection can be, but this is the connection. When I just heard this, when I understand that it's unmanned and they're collecting a bunch of different data points, that's where Palantir gets involved. That's where the Palantir Foundry system is helping them tremendously. It all makes sense. We discussed one disadvantage previously with the need for larger test area when compared to manned aircraft. And now they got this larger test area. Fantastic. Alex, how much of the testing that you're doing now can be credited towards certification of your production aircraft? Andrew, the technology demonstrator is primarily proving the concept. It is also providing all sorts of data and information that we will apply to the production aircraft. When certifying an aircraft, the vehicle must conform to the production design. The testing we are doing now will give us the assurances and confidence that the assumptions that are being made for larger production aircraft are valid. Alex, can you give us an outline of your test campaign and timeline with the current vehicle? Andrew, we had to rearrange our timelines, not least because we have been affected by the supply chain distributions. Tell me about it, brother. We all suffer, and all industries have been experiencing in the past months. We will continue flying and demonstrating as long as we feel necessary, and that is going very well. The production specification aircraft will start being built in 2023, so in about a year from now. And once we start flying that, also thanks to the experiences we will have accumulated with the demonstration, the test flight program should last about 18 months. So 18 months from 2023, let's say we start in a year, that's half a year until 2024, so 2025. Everything is for 2025, 2025, 2025. And let's actually take a look at the test flight.
And flight collected, limit off, limit off. Flight test mode, flight selected. Clear to cross. Accelerating 45. Stable, 2, 3. 9, 1. Stable, 2, 3, continuous required, releasing. Right down. Expect. Stable, 2, 3, continue. Descending. On control, 50%. Stable, 2, 3, continuous required. Leveling off. Reducing speed. Cross, 40 knots. Descending. Reducing speed. Start mode, good position to land, full collective. Limit on, lift result. Touchdown. Good collective.
I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty cool how they actually could take off and take down. I did play that at 2x speed. I hope you enjoyed that video. Let's keep going. Alex, what are your challenges of certifying an aircraft with the certification specifications themselves are also in the process of being developed? Challenge is the good word, but it is certainly something we can handle. It is also not expected with a new technology such as this. And we see it as an opportunity since we are involved at this early stage and we are participating in the associated EUROK working group, WG, whatever. Alex, with the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, that's where they're getting their certification. We have SC VTOL and the associated MOCs, which are providing the backbone of what is experienced to become a certification specification in the future. Do you have similar guidance from the U.S. Federal Aviation? So they're saying that basically you're testing with the European version of aviation. Do you have the same thing going on in the United States? Andrew says we are pushing a concurrent certification for LILIUM jets with Europe and the United States. Our primary certification is Europe, and we work through the European with the American to drive that concurrent certification. Alex says, what would be your advice to any student interested in a career in advanced air mobility, specifically flight test? Andrew says, it's a good question. The future of the industry is very credible, and anyone with any passion for aviation should be following this evolution. Recently, I was speaking with a wife and a subject, and I found a good way to explain it was to see how quickly commercial aviation evolved in the 1920s, and then again with the big step of the jet age in the 1960s. In a way, we find ourselves with a similar point for eVTOL. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to comment in a moment. So anybody coming into the business now will be part of the revolution. If a student, you have any interest in this subject, keep up to date the latest developments, and for sure, there will be several pathways into the industry, specifically for flight testing. Despite the modern process and automation, etc., it is still very exciting part for the development process. Guys, so just look what they said. In the 1920s, that's when we first started getting planes. And then because of World War II, they started getting jet engine planes. And that developed right after the war from the 1960s on. And right now there's a need for eVTOL. Why? Energy consumption, right? You need energy efficient vehicles, both automotive and aviation vehicles. It's very, very interesting when he brought that up. And I never thought of that. The 1920s was the evolution of aviation, 1960s the jets, and now you have the electric aviation. Alex, is there anything else you would like to tell the eVTOL community? Andrew, going back to the analogy of the aviation from 1920s, it would have been easy at the time to discount the whole idea of how ubiquitous commercial aviation would become in our lives. I would encourage everyone to have faith in advanced air mobility, and through a lot of work has been done already, we are at the start of a very interesting journey. Guys, that was the article. Yes, you could read this on your own. No, you can't do my commenting on your own. You can have your own commenting. And I definitely encourage you to do your own research. I definitely encourage you to read things like that. But articles like this are barely coming up in the news. You really have to search for it. And being one of the only YouTubers, if not the only YouTuber, that actually covers LILIUM and has multiple videos on them, I feel like it's my duty and obligation to bring in this type of news. Just like it's your duty and obligation to give me the like, shares, and subscribe. But more importantly, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm employer entertainment and education. But if you want more education, click on this link right here where I go over LILIUM from beginning to end. Definitely click this link if you want to know more about LILIUM.